welcome to another episode of Talking College Football. I'm your host, JJ Kitchen. Of course, guys, thank you so much for joining. It's our Sunday conversation on a Monday. Unfortunately, I had a lot of stuff to do yesterday with family, could not jump on, but also, too, got to see more commitments yesterday. 4 commitments from over the weekend. I still expect 2 more, but 4 have been made public. And let me tell you, these 4 make another dent. But more importantly, they attack every one of our weaknesses that we currently are looking for. I think the number of these guys, we'll talk about them tonight. The 4 guys in general, Charlie Partridge hitting home runs in terms of the defensive line. The wide receiver room was established. Was a need there. I think potentially they may add 1 more wide receiver, but also 2 running back. But we'll go into which guys could possibly be the ones that really look at in terms of how well they'll play, which ones are guarantees to me, and which ones could technically be question marks. But also, too, we'll go through the roundabout about the guys that have already committed overall. As we've seen so far, there's been 6 commitments from the transfer portal. Guys, again, before we get into it, of course, have to go into the sponsor of the show, Colonial Beer, located at 4986 Library Road in Bethel Park, PA 15102. Guys, again, Colonial Beer, a place where, they have numerous selections. I go there, for instance, if I'm just going to a gathering for anybody I go to see, with Michelob Ultra, or I go for, Miller Lite. But more importantly, I go there for the Fake Slide Pilsner, which helps support the players at the University of Pittsburgh, but more importantly, helps Alliance 412, which is the preferred collective of the University of Pittsburgh. Again, guys, what Alliance 412 has done, but more importantly, Colonial Beer, run by Pittmen, 2 incredible Pittmen. Anytime you run into them, you can always ask them a question, say hi to them. They're always the best of the best. 2 great individuals that I'm lucky to be sharing, the podcast with and the show. But more importantly, just 2 great people. Again, Colonial Beer, located at 4986 Library Road, Bethel Park, PA 15102. Make sure you still go pick up your Fake Slide. Again, such a great design overall. It's been incredible, the amount of people that have gotten on board with this. But more importantly, it supports helping pay the players. And more importantly, goes to the Alliance 412, which is the preferred collective of the University of Pittsburgh. Guys, let's get into it. Before we get started here, I know there's some comments lining up. The best of the best, Jason Watkins from the Hall of Fame College Football Podcast. Hit the like and subscribe button to our friend JJ Kitchen's amazing show. Jason, you're the best, brother. Can't wait to see you tomorrow. John Gorman, hell of a start to the offseason. You can say that again, brother. Adam, are you still expecting the D-end from Clemson? What about the DB from Georgia? Any chance there? So before we get into it, guys, again, I'll answer a couple of these questions before we start diving into the commitments that we've already received. At this point, guys, I think with the defensive end from Clemson, it's kind of a 50-50 shot. I really do believe that he's still going to commit at some point, whether it's in the next couple days or whatnot. It's just patience at this point. There's a lot of good teams involved with the Clemson defensive end. David, really good player. Overall, would add another in-depth player to the defensive line. We'll see what happens. But also to Georgia, when it comes to the DB from Georgia, he's actually down to 2 schools, I've heard. And it's really come down to 2 familiar schools, Purdue and Pitt. Obviously, Coy, if you guys remember the DB that we had lost from the PA area here, Coy, he actually committed to Purdue earlier this year. I thought for sure, and from what I was told from people within that building, he really actually silently committed to Pitt. But I think NIL got in the way a little bit, got a little bit more, thought he had a better opportunity at Purdue. He seems like he's still going to commit there. We'll see how that pans out. All I know is in the Pat Narduzzi defense, it's established with NFL guys. So we'll see how that goes. But I can tell you this, the Georgia defensive back, which is probably the number 1 cornerback remaining on the board at this point in the transfer portal, he's down to what I was told again from 2 people. 2 people had told me Purdue and Pitt. We'll see how that goes. I think, it would suck to lose to another guy to Purdue. But at this point, I kind of feel comfortable about the Georgia DB coming here. I think just with the connections that we have down there. But more importantly, the guys that we know that the development and the relationships built, Pitt's done a really good job. And when you get a guy on campus, you kind of really help yourself in a lot of different ways, especially when you're landing guys. That's the number one thing. Developing relationships, NIL, that kind of stuff, all comes into play. But what you saw from this weekend, we'll dive into that here. Pittman, Zach 94, running back room is interesting. Rodney Hammond, Derek Davis Jr., Montravius Lloyd, Desmond Reed, and Jules Goff coming in. 100%. I actually like that room a lot. Now, would I have loved to add Yassin Willis as well, who's a 4-star running back? I'd have loved to add him. I think that Pitt fans need to understand there was a lot going on behind the scenes there. Fran Brown is a hell of a recruiter, but he's from the New Jersey area. And so obviously is Yassin Willis. There's been previous connections there. I think just it was only a matter of time. I heard about it for about a week and a half, 2 weeks beforehand. When Fran Brown got the job, he was pretty much already in there. He was already making moves for Syracuse. I consider it a loss for Pitt because the running back, he's really good. But at the end of the day, we still got Jules Goff coming in, who's broken every record in his high school here in PA. Had a hell of a year, had a hell of a couple 2 years, to say the least. He's going to be a good player for us, and that's putting it mildly, to say the least. But overall, when you look at the running back room right now, I think it looks better than what it was. It just comes down to what does the rotation look like. I've been pretty critical of Pitt's running back room in terms of the rotation. I think it's so critical for a running back to get some type of feel and some type of rhythm, especially when the game goes on. You're not just trading guys in and out constantly. I think right now on the roster right now with everybody that's named right there, Rodney Hammond is your best running back, and he should be their starting running back day one. He should get the majority of the carries. Let him build that confidence and continue to let him get a feel of it, especially, too, when it comes to games. You can't be letting guys go out every other series. Let him get his carries. I think Derek Davis Jr., we didn't get to see him a lot this year at all. I think he's an incredible athlete. He's got the speed. He's a 6-foot running back, really strong. He's got to get more carries this year. And we saw Montravius Lloyd a little bit. He'll be a guy that dives in. I think Desmond Reed in this offense with Cade Bell, he'll be getting touches. A guy small in stature, but he's like a fire hydrant, to use a term from Mike Tomlin. He's like a fire hydrant. He hits you hard. Always leans forward when he's tackled. He's never losing yardage. He's always gaining yardage. I think he's going to be a great running back. And Desmond Reed, I think just in general, when it comes to third down, where it's third down plays, he'll have different packages, stuff that will fit him. But I think in this roster, Rodney Hammond is your best running back. And then Jules Goff, I think the best thing for him is to just redshirt this year. There's so many guys in front of him, so many guys that have potential. We'll see what that room looks like. We'll continue to see what the staff changes look like. Again, early signing period is on Wednesday. And from what I've heard and what's expected, after signing day, the early signing period, there are going to be some changes. Considerably on the offensive staff. I think we may actually have one on the defensive staff, whether it's a retirement. We'll continue to see what that looks like. The job right now is to make sure they keep as many guys they can on the defensive staff. There's guys out there that people will certainly be getting talked about for other coaching positions. But Pitt pays their coaches well. So we look to hope to keep them. We'll see. We'll continue to monitor that. I'll be able to give you guys more of an update, and I'll be able to post more shows in terms of what that continues to look like. But what I can tell you is this. The running back room, I think, looks good right now. And again, I was very confident in saying that we have the talent. It just needs developed, and it needs a scheme that will actually work to put players in a position to win. Levi Butler, any clue the length of Bell's contract, assuming 2 or 3 years? Levi, I would be guessing here, but from what I've heard, it's 3 years. 3 years, and that makes, I would say most of the time that makes the most sense. I think, you had, Kurt Signetti had 2 years, pretty much got a 1-year extension this year in fall camp. Cost Pitt a little bit of money to pay the buyout to get him out, a little over $1 million. Had to pay to get him out, is what it is. But it's really what it is at this point, doing business. It's just how college, coaching looks like, college recruiting. The college game in general right now is just absolutely just nuts at this point when it comes to recruiting, coaching searches, everything. And as we saw from the previous search here with Pitt, it was pretty much very remotely closed behind closed doors. It was hard getting the information. I had to work a lot of people to get that information. And I think with Cade Bell being a young guy, 3-year contract, makes sense. If it works out for 2 years, hey, you got to move on. You need to do what you need to do. But I think that from everything I've heard, I think Cade Bell is actually going to be pretty good here. I really do. Will, the Western Carolina University running back, is very different from what we have on the roster. Does Bell have a type at that position, and does the running back corps fit his mold? So for starters, I think when you just have the roster of at FCS, okay, you're going to get different guys on the teams that are actually good. They're Power 5 guys, and we saw, for instance, we'll be talking later tonight about C.J. Lee, the wide receiver from Western Carolina, who had a star-studded year, to say the least, at Western Carolina. He's easily a Power 5 player. But these two guys, he's one of them. 60% of their offensive yards came from these two guys. I don't think that he has a mold or a certain type that he likes to look for. If the guys are fast and they're able to gain yards and they're aggressive and they're extremely athletic, that's all that matters. I think when you look at Desmond Reed, he's a guy who's going to be able to give you that third down advantage, to where if most of the time we're in the shotgun, especially in Cade Bell's offense, you're in the shotgun. You want a guy out there that can catch the ball out of the backfield. That's one thing he's going to be able to do really, really well. He's a stout guy. I think Rodney Hammond's going to help with that. I think that they certainly have the running backs on this roster. I think when you look at Cade Bell's offense, and they call it really the pro-style spread, Kerwin Bell, obviously Cade Bell's dad talked about it. It's really his offense with a little bit of Cade Bell flavor. Kerwin Bell brought it from the Indianapolis Colts when Kerwin played for them. Obviously, Jim Harbaugh was on that staff. They had a bunch of guys on that staff, brought the pro-style concepts from the Indianapolis Colts. But on top of that, brought the pro-style spread, the spread portion of it, from a Hall of Fame football coach, Steve Spurrier. And anywhere that Kerwin has gone, he's been extremely successful. He's won a national title at Valdosta State. Cade Bell was there for that. Called plays there. Called plays at Western Carolina University. Cade Bell was very much involved with the Florida offensive coordinator search. He was a guy that popped up consistently because of the points that he scores. And when you look at the SEC and you look at, the Big Ten, you're seeing a lot of these FCS guys and their offenses start to go to those points. You start to see Oregon, Washington, they all run the same stuff. And I think that you have to give a little bit of credit to Pat Narduzzi to say, hey, we need something that's modern, that's going to score us points. Because if we're not going to score points, we're going to be having a real issue in today's college football game. So I think overall, when it comes to the running back room, he has the talent. I just think that he wanted a little bit of extra supplement to a guy that knows the offense. He's going to be helped to be a coach for these guys in the running back room, and he'll be able to play as well in certain scenarios where he'll probably back up Rodney Hammond. So we'll continue to watch that and monitor that. What do you think the odds are, Bray, you flipping to Michigan State? From talking to him, I'm going to say 50-50. And, again, what's said behind closed doors will stay behind closed doors. But I think that if he was going to leave, it would have to do something with NIL, and I think that, when you look at Pitt and you see, and it was kind of explained to him, when you have these 4-star guys like a Nick James coming from Indiana, 4-star out of IMG, had offers all over the place, could have gone anywhere again. His recruitment out of the portal was nuts. I looked at him and I said, the conversation behind closed doors, Charlie Partridge is the best in the business, hands down. The NIL money is chump change compared to what you'll get in the National Football League. And I think that a lot of these guys miss that. And sometimes they need to hear that one more time and to hear that multiple times. I truly believe it's 50-50. Jonathan Smith, the new head football coach in Michigan State, came by way of Oregon State. Really good football coach. Everything I've heard from people that I know in the industry, whether coaches in the industry, he's a good coach, good guy, does it for the right reasons. I think with Oregon State dropping to that Pac-12, not the Pac-12 anymore, but the P2, that was an issue for him, I think. And I think the money that they were going to consistently lose, he wanted to look for a new job, and obviously Michigan State jumped all over that, But I think at this point it's 50-50. I think it can go either way. I think he knows what he has at Pitt. As we sit here today, I'm going to be honest. I'm still saying 50-50, but I think there's a little bit of a lean towards Pitt. I really do. I just think he's a good kid. He's been committed for so long, has a great relationship with Charlie Partridge. I guarantee Charlie's on the phone with him consistently. Pat Narduzzi's on the phone with him constantly. But we'll see. NIL always plays a game with people Sometimes they don't see, the real important value, the monetary value of great coaches. And what Pitt has with Charlie Partridge is second to none around the country. But more importantly, the way that the players are treated at Pitt. I've heard from multiple coaches who have coached at Pitt, who are no longer at Pitt, but also, too, heard from other recruits who have visited Pitt. Pitt players are treated pretty well, and it's well known. And guys who have left the program to go other places have come back and told me personally, players who I consider very dear friends of mine, have said, "Look, it's not like Pitt everywhere else around the country. A lot of this is business, and we're not treated as well as we were at Pitt, and I kind of made a mistake." I think one of those guys you'll see is Samuel Okunlola. He's getting offers from everywhere, but we'll see what kind of money he gets because it's all about the money, But he's going to learn real quickly that, Pitt cared about their players. You go to some of these other schools, you don't perform, you're out. It's over. That's it. So we'll see how that goes. But I think at this point, 50-50, but a little bit of a lean to Pitt right now. That's what I love about Montravius Lloyd. He ran hard whenever he came in to get his opportunities. I completely agree, man. He really did. And he actually does a really good job. I think he'll take that step forward again this year. We'll see who's controlling that running back room. Again, potential changes coming the way. It should happen here pretty soon, pretty quickly. But we'll continue to see what that looks like. But I can tell you this, I think he's got a lot of potential. But when you got Rodney Hammond back there, Derek Davis, Montravius Lloyd, Desmond Reed, now Jules Goff, I think there's just so much talent back there. But we'll see how it continues to develop. Everybody can have a lot of potential. We'll see how it develops. So we'll see and continue to monitor that. With Cade Bell's offense, how much will this affect our tight ends? I feel like we really misused Bartholomew. Yeah, John, very simple. The tight end will be clearly used in this offense. If you look at Cade Bell, he loves the 11 personnel. Sometimes he'll go into 12 personnel. And for people who don't know, 11 personnel is one running back, one tight end on the field, and 3 wide receivers. Sometimes you'll see the empty sets where you have 4 wide receivers, 1 running back, 4 wide receivers, 1 tight end. You'll see those in 12 personnel. You'll have 1 running back and 2 tight ends with two receivers. In this instance, I think Carter Johnson's obviously still there. Gavin Bartholomew. You're going to see a lot of mismatches with a pro-style concept, but the spread, and which makes it very unique, is the spread portion of it with the pro-style concepts, that they're going to be able to create mismatches for Gavin Bartholomew, and he's finally going to get the touches that he should be getting. I heard that was a really big selling point, just being able to score points, number one. But number two, during his interview, he really came in and showed how he would really use a lot of these players. I talked about the Kenny Johnsons, the Kanate Mumfields, the Dejon Reynolds. You're going to see C.J. Lee come in here. You're going to see, Lamar Seymour, Izzy Polk, all these guys, Zion Fowler. You'll see all these guys, how they're going to be able to get touches. But also, too, Gavin Bartholomew, Johnson at tight end as well. Obviously, they're looking at another tight end to potentially bring in. They're certainly going to get their touches. This is a guy that's very creative. Anybody that I've talked to, whether it's Kerwin, his dad, from anybody you've seen talk to Kerwin, or anybody that's talked to the media, or any coaches within the FCS level, he is very, very much creative, and we needed that creativity and scheme. I mean, heck, I hate to say it, but look at the Steelers right now. The lack of knowledge and just people that are just out of their league that shouldn't be coaching in certain levels shouldn't be there. I think the game passed Frank Cignetti a long time ago. I thought there was potential there. He talked about his offense was always big with the tight end. He didn't use the tight end very well, especially in his second year. The first year he did. The second year was just horrible. But overall, when you look at it, he's very creative. He'll be able to create mismatches. That's really what you're looking for at this point. Odds Pitt lands Kamara Green. We'll get back to that question, Brock. I'll get back to that question. I don't want to give too much away because I know a little bit. I don't want to give too much away on it, though. Mike, one signing day passes, do you expect a slow play of new assistants or expect to happen pretty quickly? Mike, I think at this point, when you look at the staff the way it is right now, I would say probably towards the end of the week. And the reason why is because he's going to look for certain guys, and there's guys that have certain resumes in already. Okay, I know from certain positions, they've already sent in, from coaches that I've talked to that have put coaches in that they know at the Power 5 level, at the Group of 5 level, at the NFL level. Guys have put their names in and said, "Hey, if this opens up, I'd like to be interested." I would say towards the end of the week, and the reason why is, I think Pat's going to start to look very aggressively because of the number of openings that there potentially could be. But he loves going to the coaches conference. He loves going to the coaches conference and being able to meet with different guys, meet new guys that he doesn't know in his own circle that has a lot to go with in terms of the coaching world. And as you saw, he's a guy that takes his time. I think that he took his time with this one, and I think he did a good job. We'll see how it translates from FCS to the FBS. That's certainly a question that still needs to be answered. Can he make the adjustments in the ACC where you're facing some damn good football teams, Clemson, Florida State, Clemson, Florida State, Miami, you name it. It doesn't matter. And I think it's truly important at this point to see how it develops. But I think that the moves will be made towards the end of the week. I think maybe one or two, maybe. Or what he may do is just keep them in place for the time being and then continue to look. But they're going to be moves made. Okay, I think that there are some Pitt guys, some former players who are looking at positions. To put one out there, the tight end coaching position. We'll see if Salem makes his way back. I just think, guys, from everything I've heard, 3-9, that's a very bad thing. And you're going to start to see a lot of these start. It's going to happen, I think, relatively, quickly. And the only way these guys stay on at this point, I think the only one that will really come back is Tyquan Underwood. Tyquan actually knows Cade Bell really well. We'll continue to see what that looks like. But overall, I would think pretty quickly in terms of pushing guys out. But when it comes to hiring coaches, he's going to take his time. That's just how he is. So I wouldn't be up and about to see who he hires, because I think you won't see hires till I would say almost in the middle of January, if I had to guess, when it comes to the coaching hires. That's beautiful. Fake slide Pilsner again, guys. Again, if you haven't already, you have to go see our guys at Colonial Beer, located at 4986 Library Road in Bethel Park, PA, 15102. Run by two great pitmen. Support pitmen. But more importantly, as you've seen with Alliance 412 is on fire right now. This stuff helps support Alliance 412, which is a preferred collective of the University of Pittsburgh. All of the funds go to the players. That's number one. Also, number two, if you are not a subscriber, please, if you are able to, tell a friend, tell your family, give it as a gift. $20 a month. I just upgraded mine to the 412, which is $41.20 a month. Just love being able to promote and help Pitt, but more importantly, put my money where my mouth is. I get to talk about Pitt as much as I do. I think Alliance 412 has done a hell of a job. But if you were able to, please subscribe to Alliance 412. For instance, you saw Country Roads Trust with West Virginia. They just went over 1,500 subscribers. Guys, there's no reason why Pitt fans, we cannot do that. For instance, we're a better school than West Virginia. What the hell? If they're able to get 1,500 people, that should be easy for us overnight. We can do it. What the hell? We're a better fan base anyways. We don't want to be anywhere towards West Virginia. Subscribe to Alliance 412. I'll be doing a podcast on it here, a show on it for about 30 minutes or so coming up soon. But again, if you can, subscribe to Alliance 412, the preferred collective of the University of Pittsburgh. And again, support Colonial Beer at 4986 Library Road in Bethel Park, PA, 15102. Again, we're going to hear a couple more comments. Brock, I'll go JJ. Yeah, I'll get back to it, Brock. I'll say this. David from Clemson, the defensive end, I got him as a lean towards Pitt. And I hope, and again, anything can happen with NIL, but when he walked out of here, he's pretty happy about Pitt. I can tell you that. I'll give you that, Brock. Does Pitt hold on to Marceline? Yes. He's been a strange cat. His recruitment, Marceline, has been very strange. Never announced anything, never put anything on Twitter, nothing like that. I mean, just wanted to keep it really, really quiet. Heart of hearts, guys, just being honest. He wanted to go to Miami or Florida State, one of the schools in Miami or Florida, the Florida area. He's just not a take for those schools right now because of how many guys they go through the portal. I think when he gets up here, I think he'll see how great Pitt is. But more importantly, when he gets developed up here, he's going to be a hell of a player. I wouldn't be shocked to see him play early. That's how good that kid is. The kid is, he just looks like a freak, just genetically. just see his body, the way he's cut up. He just looks like a freak of nature. So again, he's going to be here. I know there's been a lot of touchy comments where he's been looking at, Maryland. He looked at Maryland for a while, potentially Michigan State. He looked at a couple other different schools, but I can tell you this: Marcelin will be at Pitt. The quarterback room is one I think is going to be wide open competition, losing Devonshire, Williams, and Woods, top three corners of 2023 NFL draft. Saw Pitt added Nebraska transfer Taman Lynham. And I think that is a great segue, Pitt Manzac 94, as we get into the players who signed with Pitt this weekend. But first, since you brought him up, Nebraska corner, Taman Lynham. The guy's 6'2", okay? He's got a good frame. I think he can add a little bit of weight. But the guy is going to be a day one starter. That's how good this kid is from Nebraska. Had a number of different portal offers. He was very much sought after, especially in the Power 5. I think he's been an incredible player for Nebraska. I think he was looking for more of a fresh start. He certainly has the athletic ability. I kind of compare him to like the size of a Jason Pinnock, but he does have the ability and the ability of Jason, but also to an MJ Devonshire. Pitt loves these big corners. They're very aggressive. I think you love to see it. I think Tatum is going to be a really good guy in this system where he really, truly develops. He has 2 years of eligibility left. You love to see that. Money well spent to the point where, you're bringing guys on not for a year and looking for another guy later on, at least 2 years. And I think he will be here for 2 years. And when he does have the 2 years, he'll probably go to the National Football League. I just think that's how good this kid potentially can be. If he just listens, learns from guys like Archie Collins, or if he moves to safety, I think he's going to stay because of his size. He's going to stay corner. So Archie Collins will certainly have a field day with a guy like this, with his size, his aggressiveness. It loves the press coverage, which obviously in Pitt's defense, the 4-3 defense, quarters coverage, you need very physical guys, and he is certainly one of them. Taman Lynham, Nebraska cornerback, now with the University of Pittsburgh. I think he's going to be a hell of an addition as he continues to develop here at Pitt. But when it comes to this weekend, one of the big ones that first really came out first. And when I heard this guy was on campus, I was ecstatic. Okay. 6'5", over 225. I mean, just the frame of this kid is incredible. Kansas State, I don't know how to spell that, so that's always good. Let's see here. Let's actually correct that here real quick so everyone doesn't have to keep looking at that. Let's see here. There we go. Kansas State defensive end, Nate Matlock. Okay. Again, I love the frame on this kid. Again, 6'5". He's built like a freak. He's over 225. He's got a good size to him. Again, he has a lot of potential. He did a really good job. I think he was all Big 12. He was second team or third team his freshman year. Almost won freshman Big 12 player of the year. Hell of a player. A lot of potential needs to be unlocked. We'll see what Charlie Partridge can do. But when you got a guy at that size on the end, he talked about how, at Kansas State, they really run a 3-3-5. Okay. And I think when you look at, when you look at a guy his size, you want to be able to play in a 4-3 defense. You want to be on the edge where you get to use that length. You get to use that size to where you can really just go after the pass rusher, and especially when you're in the run game, able to hold the edge, be able to collapse down, especially if it's an inside run, or be able to contain the outside to where you see anything that gets popped out. But he's going to be a guy that's very much physical, very fast. I mean, just look at the size on the kid already that he has. Wait till he gets to Pitt's weight room, adds more weight, adds more muscle into his third. He'll be in his third year. He'll have 3 years, 3 years of eligibility. Just a tremendous football player, I think, that has a lot of potential. And I think he'll continue to show that. But again, potential. We'll see where that goes. I trust Charlie Partridge more than any other coach out there. It was one rough year this year with the defensive line. You saw the injuries and whatnot. I think the defensive line really makes a comeback with more additions on the way. But if they look like Kansas State's defensive end, Nate Matlock, we're in good hands. Speaking of the defensive line, former IMG Academy 4-star defensive tackle Nick James. Nick James talked about how when you looked at guys when you hit the portal, I think more guys get to the point where you'll see certain guys that are much more mature. They know what they want. It's not like it's in high school where they're going to every school and enjoying the flash and all the pictures and obviously trying on uniforms and everything. There's guys like Nick. When you talk to him, he just immediately knows what he wants. and he wanted a great coach like Charlie Partridge, and he called him the best in the business, told it to multiple outlets, whether it was 247 Panther Layer, you saw it all over Twitter over the weekend. He talked about how Charlie Partridge is the best in the business and develops the best talent possible. I think that is just such a crucial thing. And again, we tried telling certain guys, especially like the Samuel Okunlolas of the world, DeAndre Joels. DeAndre Joels went to South Carolina. Samuel Okunlola was, still on the market at this point. We'll see where he goes, but he's going to be in for a tough run. I think when you look at these guys, they understand the monetary value of being coached by the best defensive line coach in the country. And you see, obviously, Charlie Partridge's, just his track record of players that have gone to the National Football League, whether it's first-round draft picks, second-round draft picks, third-round draft picks, that go on to be successful in the National Football League. That speaks for itself. And we see a guy like Indiana's defensive tackle, Nick James. He's going to be a guy that's going to be able to play right away. And again, Matlock's another guy. I think you're going to see Matlock on the other side with right now with the current roster the way it is. Matlock on the other side of Dayon Hayes. I'd say that really those are the two starting defensive ends at this point. You'll see another defensive end coming in pretty soon. You'll see some more additions, I think, on the defensive line. I think some of these young guys will be able to play. Isaiah Ghost Neal, you'll see him get some playing time this year. Nakai Johnson, he's a guy that moved in on the inside later on in the year against Duke. He got some playing time in there. I think as the offseason goes on, he needs to add more weight. That's a thing that could really help him, especially within the trenches. You saw a guy like Elijah Cansey, who was just freakishly fast, was undersized, was really at like the 265, 275 level when it comes to weight when he was at Pitt, which is a quick freak, just to be able to move quickly. I think Nakai Johnson could potentially be that, but you still got Elliott Donald there. You still got Sean Fitzsimmons. Sean Fitzsimmons is still going to be a hell of a player. Had injuries early on in the season. I think just took time to catch up, didn't get back in the rotation. Just with a crazy year last year, but you got Sean Fitzsimmons, you got guys coming in. I think you're going to see a lot of different guys, whether it's, Sincere Edwards, he can play on the outside or move in. Elliott Donald there, we'll see how he continues to develop. He's got to show some more stuff this year. He's got the potential, but he has to show it. He has to show it at this point. Isaiah Ghost Neal, another one. You'll see Nick James. I see another defensive tackle being added. It's just a good group. I think Nick James being added to the group of a guy that's going to be able to really just step in right away because of his potential and be coached legitimately by a great coach, Charlie Partridge. You'll start to see that. But more importantly, as the spring ball goes through, you'll see a little bit there. But wait till you see fall camp. And then that first game, we'll have an FCS opponent. But then week 2, we go against Cincinnati again. In Cincinnati, I'll be at that one. Always wanted to go to Cincinnati to watch a game in the Big East days. Hopefully we take care of business this year. We should have won this year. The way I think it's going to go, I think we should win next year as well. Now to the offensive side of the football. Western Carolina wide receiver C.J. Lee, the home of Cade Bell. C.J. Lee, this kid, when it comes to speed, I think he's got great speed, but I think he's got better route running. And I think that is so critical in college football. Everybody always wants to talk about the speed. You got to cover speed. When you have great route running, you don't sometimes need the greatest speed. I think Tyler Boyd didn't have great speed, but his route running was impeccable, and he beat everybody, and he caught everything. This is a guy that catches in traffic, does a really good job with his route running. I think he'll continue to do a really good job here. Again, he'll help other guys in the wide receiver room. Tyquan Underwood learn the system. Tyquan Underwood obviously knows Cade Bell personally. There's a good relationship there. I think that they'll be able to work. And I think that when you have a couple of these guys come in, they're helped to be coaches and really help with the process of, hey, let's pick up the speed. You're going to see a lot of difference in the Cade Bell offense where some games we're going to be snapping the ball every 13 seconds, every 14 seconds. And there's going to be games where we might snap every 20, every 25 seconds because we have control of the clock. We have control of the game. You're going to see different motions. Cade Bell is a number one of those guys to where he's able to create those sections and really put together a good game plan. But C.J. Lee, I think, is going to be a great addition. Just his numbers, all freshmen, FCS player, wide receiver coach down at Western Carolina was voted number one wide receiver coach in the FCS. Because of guys like C.J. Lee, when you have a great season as a wide receiver, your wide receiver coach really usually does get noticed. We saw that with Jordan Addison and Brendan Marion after a little while. But C.J. Lee, I think just when you look at his tape, I just like his route running. I think he does have good speed, but his route running is so damn good. You love to see that in a pro-style spread, which, again, I'm going to love saying for the majority of time, pro-style spread, we're actually going to throw the ball around and put our deep shots up with a strong running game. It's going to be good, so good to watch. But Western Carolina wide receiver C.J. Lee will be a player to watch going forward. Obviously, I still have Konate until C.J. proves at the FBS level. I still have Konate Mumfield sitting as a number 1 wide receiver for Pitt. Kenny Johnson, number 2. I think Dejon Reynolds still at number 3, and then CJ at number 4. And you'll start to see some of these young guys, Lamar Seymour, Izzy Polk, Zion Fowler. Those guys start to step up this year. And potentially one more wide receiver coming into the portal. We'll see how many numbers it looks like. We'll see how many commitments we continue to keep. All those types of things go into play when it comes to the transfer portal. So we'll continue to see what that looks like on a day-to-day basis. But lastly, Western Carolina running back Desmond Reed, small in stature like a fire hydrant, but tough as a nail. 5'8". Okay, obviously not the biggest guy in the world. I know this will be a lot. I know I haven't seen it yet, but I know the comparison will be Vincent Davis. The big difference between Vincent Davis and Desmond Reed's a lot thicker than Vincent Davis. And I think, Vincent Davis did his job for the most part in certain areas. But just at the Power 5 level, it was kind of tough to watch him at times. He just got thrown around like a rag doll at times. This is a guy at 5'8". I mean, he's a lot heavier than Vincent Davis, a much more power runner. I mean, it kind of reminds me of like a much thicker Darren Sproles. It's kind of how I kind of put it, to where a guy, Darren Sproles was in the NFL for a long time, a third down back, smaller guy, couldn't find him, but was just tough. Was a tough runner. This guy's more built, especially when you go look at his size, his weight. You look at the pictures, especially too, just his definition and what he looks like, especially at the FCS level. Put him in Pitt's weight room for a little bit, you'll be able to see results. So I think when you look at overall, Desmond Reed's can be able to fill a couple holes here and there. I think he'll be a great third down back, a guy who can catch the ball out of the backfield. That's one of the great things that he does, creates mismatches to where his speed, his elusiveness. We'll continue to see what that looks like. And again, potential. We'll see how that develops to the Power 5 level, the FBS level. I'm more sure, in my opinion, about C.J. Lee than I am about Desmond Reed. I think Desmond Reed will be able to fit certain spots. It's, like I said, a third down back. I want to see how he develops in the FBS. I really do. I want to see how he does, just that next level, that next step up. That's the kind of stuff that I really want to see, especially too, as they continue to make that transition. In that running back room, Rodney Hammond is your number 1 back all day, every day. Rodney Hammond should be getting at least 70 to 80% of the snaps, guaranteed, no questions asked, no game plan needs to even be thought of, at least. And especially if he's having a great day, he gets 90, 95. And then you like to supplement those other guys in to give him a rest whenever you need to. But he should be the bell cow going forward in 2024 if they get the rotation right. We'll see how that looks. I was very critical about how bad the rotation was for the running back room. I just disappointed. You can see Derek Davis at all last year. Rodney Hammond barely any carries. I understand C.J. Flemister was a good back, but wasn't great. And your number 1 back should be Rodney Hammond. Just very frustrated from watching that the whole entire year, and I know you guys are as well. But just should have never happened from top to bottom. It just should have never happened. And again, I want to bring up one more guy we didn't land over the weekend. It was previously, but Yukon long snapper Nile. I can't even say this last name. I had to put it up here. Hulea. Maybe that's wrong. It probably is wrong, but I wanted to put it up here to talk about him. Guy's extremely intelligent, going for his master's degree. I mean, long snapper, just be consistent. From anything I've watched on the Yukon tape, I think it was like 16 plays. I mean, he did a really good job. I mean, they're bringing him in. They certainly feel comfortable with him. There's enough tape on him that they certainly see confidence in him, where there's no mishaps like what we've seen this year. I still want to see if Pitt goes after a punter. Again, Junko, good kid. But, man, when your job is to punt, you have to be able to punt the football at the college level, especially the Power 5 level. And our punting game has just been absolutely atrocious. Our special teams has been absolutely atrocious. I think Ben Sauls did really good for the most part, but when you look at the penalties that happen on special teams, the massive issues with punting, the disadvantage that we were always at, that kind of stuff has to change. And I think that they need to get a new punter. And we'll continue to see what that looks like going into 2024, but also, too, as the portal continues to stay open to where Pitt makes those decisions where they want to go. All right, so those are the players that we landed, but also, too, the 6 players overall that have been committed to Pitt. And I think we'll continue to see more names pop up on here, guys that are really good, guys that will certainly fill holes. I expect more commitments. I thought we'd see one today for sure. He's certainly keeping it quiet. I did see one player that posted that talked about he's got a commitment date coming up. We'll see what time. I had to see what time. I think it might be in the afternoon, but he did post it on Twitter. I'll let you guys let your thoughts run wild to figure out who that is. Again, I don't have I think the biggest difference with me, guys, is I don't have a pay board or anything like that, where I can put stuff on there behind a pay board or whatever, and just not have to worry about it getting out. I let these guys really announce on their own, especially when they tell me they committed to Pitt and they just say, hey, shut up, don't say anything. I want to be able to announce this on my own. You build relationships like that. You build trust like that. And I think that if a young man wants to have a special day where he gets to announce it and post a graphic or post a video, I'm certainly going to let him do it. But what I can tell you is this: there are more players coming. And I can tell you, the transfer portal has been good to Pitt this year. I do like these additions. Again, Desmond Reed, he's a small in stature. I want to see how much more he really progresses as the year goes on. I want to see how does it translate to the FBS level. That's truly important to me. I think CJ Lee can be a very good player. Again, as young as he is, and to put up that many stats, and for him and Desmond Reed to be 60+% of the total offense for Western Carolina, that says something. When CJ Lee hit the portal, had plenty of offers, but you want to see that be taken at the FBS level. You still have to see it first. He looks great on tape at the FCS level, but you want to see it go to that next echelon, that next step. And unfortunately, we'll probably see that a little bit in camp maybe, but more importantly, you're probably going to have to wait to see September, really by week 2, to see if he has it or not. Because the first week we have technically it's like a bye week when we're facing an FCS opponent. I'll have to check who that is. I can't remember if it's Youngstown State or somebody or who else. But probably by week 2, we'll be able to see what kind of team this is coming out of camp. We'll see what that looks like. Back to some of the comments here. How many much more LML? He's got 2 years. Well, 2 years of eligibility left. Pittman Zach, Ryan Gandy, Rashad Battle, Tamarian Crumpley, Noah Bigelow, Javonte Royal, Shadarian Harrison, and Taman Lyon. Any chance they add another cornerback? I see them adding another cornerback. They got one on the board right now. You'll have to wait and see. We'll have to see. I'm not going to say yes or no, but obviously Georgia cornerback, it's down to 2, I was told. It's down to 2. I can tell you that. Purdue and Pitt. If he says yes to Pitt, he's coming to Pitt. I can tell you this right now. And if he comes to Pitt, Taman Linen, and when you get a guy like a kid from Georgia who's possibly the number 1 corner in the portal right now, he's probably going to start day 1 too. But I think when you look at the cornerback room, Zach, you'll have potentially those 2, okay? Rylan Gandy, Rashad Battle, and Tamarian Crumpley. I've heard Crumpley's done a really good job in camp. We'll see what Rashad Battle is able to do from injury. He's very much injury prone. I just don't think it's a lot to guess what he's going to look like just between all the injuries. But Rylan Gandy, Tamarian Crumpley, Noah Bigelow are guys that have been phenomenal in terms of development coming behind the scenes. Marquez Williams has basically even said from numerous people that they are ready. They are ready to go. They are the next step in the next echelon of cornerbacks. So you have Rylan Gandy, Tamarian Crumpley, Noah Bigelow, and then Taman as well. So that's 4 right there. Javonte Royal is going to be a safety again. I don't see him playing a lot. I just think that, unfortunately, just how things work out sometimes, I just think that he's going to be a guy that does not see the field quite often. I think he's just him going back and forth between defense and offense. It's just going to be one of those careers where he does not get to play a lot. And I'm kind of shocked that he hasn't hit the portal yet to look for more playing time. I think that would probably be the best thing for him is to look for more playing time in the portal. But we'll continue to see what that looks like. Shadarian Harrison, he'll be a safety, I think. He'll be at the safety position. He certainly can play both if we really needed someone to drop down to the cornerback position. But I think he's a future great safety. Took us a lot to get him. had an injury towards the end of his senior year. That's why he was really out all last year with a medical problem. Was able to get back, just get the healthy. But he's going to be a great safety, I think, when it comes down to it. But he has to play corner. He can play corner, so you can put him in that group as well. How do you feel about Pitt's chances with the Clemson defensive end? I'm leaning at this point, again, I talked about early on, I got a 50-50, and NIL is always a factor. But I will say this. I will say, even if it is 50-50, I'll say a little bit of a lean. Just because he visited recently and he loved the visit, I'll say he's leaning a little bit to Pitt. But I think as the more days go on, if it goes on a little bit longer, I think it'll start to sway back to 50-50 to he's kind of not going to be able to commit to us, or not going to commit to us. So we'll see how long that goes. You think quarterback is an option in the portal? Yeah, they're 100% adding a quarterback. I can tell you that right now. They are adding a quarterback. And if I had to guess, I think it would be, just guessing, I think smart money would say it's going to be a younger guy, potentially maybe a redshirt sophomore, a redshirt freshman, something like that, to where you're just getting good bang for your buck. You're getting a guy that's going to be able to be here for 2 or 3 years, and you're going to pay the guy. So I just think the days of running a quarterback for a year are just over. I think we're not looking for that anymore. I think we're looking more for guys that will be here for 2 or 3 years. They get the transfer out of the way, and that's it. Pay them, and they're here for 2 or 3 years, and you develop them and watch them flourish. So, but I do know they are going to definitely get a quarterback. Any chance we look for a new punter? I haven't heard anything about a new punter, but obviously I hope to God we do, because it's a major issue. It's not going to change anytime soon unless we make a change ourselves. So personally, I hope we do make a change, because it needs to happen quickly and thoroughly, to say the least. Pittman Zach 94. Any chance they add a linebacker? Yeah, one linebacker actually this week out of Middle Tennessee State committed to Virginia Tech today. I kind of was kind of weird. If I had to guess, Virginia Tech must have made a hell of a push. Over Sunday. Had to have. Because when he left campus, he was so excited about the opportunity at Pitt and how much he loved Pitt. If I had to guess, I think Virginia Tech must have really upped their offer in NIL. They had to have, because the kid was so excited about Pitt and the opportunity. I mean, I had him as a solid lean towards Pitt. I thought for sure we'd see an announcement today or tomorrow for the Middle Tennessee State linebacker who was here over the weekend. Just confusing. If I had to guess, probably Virginia Tech came up with some big dough to offer him, because he was leaning hard to Pitt. I mean, when I saw that, when he announced that this morning, that he was going to Virginia Tech, I was like, oh, Jesus. Like, that's just another one you got to chalk up to where someone came in late again against just Virginia Tech, knew they were behind. They had one last shot to get him. He probably said, give me the bag. They gave him the bag, and he committed. That kind of stuff happens. But overall, guys, I'll take probably one more question here, but I can tell you this, guys, again, if you have not already, please subscribe to the channel. The channel is growing at a rapid rate because of you guys. This show is nothing without you guys, and that's a fact, 100% the truth. Again, I'm just so thankful to have such great people who follow the show. You guys tune in every single Sunday. The Sunday conversation will be a regular thing, unless like yesterday where I had a family function I had to go to. But the Sunday conversation will be consistent throughout the offseason. We'll talk about commitments, potential players coming through the portal. What could we potentially see going to the season? Maybe even some matchups, what we can look at different matchups, how that looks, records, what I think the records are going to be as we go through the seasons. But again, please like, subscribe, and comment on the video as you continue to watch it, guys. Again, the likes do help out. The algorithm shows more people. So again, please, if you have not already, hit the like button, and please, of course, like the video, share it, but more importantly, get your friends to watch it. Again, just beyond thankful for all things you guys do in supporting the channel. Again, the channel is nothing without you. Will, last question. If Bates retires, do you see Partridge stepping up as defensive coordinator? That's a great question, Will, and one that's actually been brought up to me quite a bit. If I had to guess, I'll leave it as a guess. Not any other information besides that. But let's say that Randy Bates does retire. I think it doesn't go to – I don't think it goes to Charlie Partridge, even though I like that. I think Charlie likes to coach the defensive line a lot. I think it goes to Archie Collins or Corey Sanders. And the reason I say Archie Collins, Corey Sanders, there's a lot of teams after those two guys every year. Every year. I mean, it's those guys are two sought-after guys, and I think one of them has to get the defensive coordinator position to get him to stay. We may lose the other one. We'll continue to see what that looks like with new staffs all around the country. We continue to pay guys at a good rate, but it's a major. I mean, it's a question mark. But if he retires, I think me personally, I would like to see Partridge there. I think he would do a great job. He was a defensive coordinator at Wisconsin, especially when J.J. Watt was there. He was defensive coordinator down at Arkansas when not Bilesma, Belima was there. But preferably, I think they're probably going to go with a guy like Corey Sanders or Archie Collins just because to make sure they can hold on to them. That's the biggest thing at this point. So that's kind of where I see it at this point. They're probably, if I had to guess, I think it's going to be Corey Sanders or Archie Collins if I had to guess. Thank you for your time, JJ. Always the best, brother. Thanks. I appreciate it, Zach. And again, I think, Will, it's going to be Corey, Archie, or Partridge. I think just the way they step in. I think they would love that. Now, is he going to look at a couple of outside candidates? I would think so. And unless someone wows him away, I think he upgrades from within. Well, guys, that's going to be our show for tonight. Again, guys, if you have not liked the video or subscribed to the channel, please subscribe to the channel. You'll get updated as soon as I go live, as soon as I drop a video. Any player interviews we have coming up through the off season. We actually may even do a Sunday conversation live with one of the current football players at Pitt, answering questions live. You can put your own questions in. You guys will absolutely love it. Have that one-on-one conversation. The Pitt players are truly some of the best in the business when it comes to meeting players. I can certainly tell you that. Anthony, make sure to click the bell icon too. Yes, Anthony, hit the bell icon so you get the updates every time I drop it. It'll send you all the notifications when I go live, when I drop everything. Thank you, Anthony, for that. Again, guys, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Talking College Football with JJ Kitchen. Of course, I'm your host, JJ Kitchen. And guys, as always and forever, hail to Pitt. I'll see you guys.